Keep in mind, this is my own subjective opinion, so if you don't like any of my takes here, you can kiss my ass. Multiclassing is coming to an end, and truth be told, guys, I sort of just want to wait until it's gone to start playing again. So instead, today we're going to be looking at some of the lessons that multiclassing taught us. That is, which perks, skills, and abilities were actually the most OP all along. I'm only going to look at the abilities that were yoinked by other classes most often, or that were hyped up going into the start of multiclassing, so as to not make this like a 3-hour long video. Also, this is mostly from a solo player perspective, so most of my takes are going to be based on solos, so keep that in mind. With that out of the way, we are just going to start with the skills. Starting off with the most obvious choices of this whole thing. The two most OP abilities in the game, as it turned out, according to multiclassing, were Sprint and Savage Roar. Sprint gives you movement speed, which is OP. Savage Roar makes the enemy do no damage at all. So it's pretty clear every single person was running these two abilities. As a caster, it sucked because everybody had Sprint. As a melee user, it sucked because everybody had Savage Roar. And it was basically just a matter of who was able to put Savage Roar on who. I don't think there's any question that those two were the strongest abilities in all of multiclassing. But once we get to the A tier, I think it gets a little bit more interesting. I think in the A tier, we have things like Rage. I guess Rage was like kind of what you used if you couldn't get Sprint, but pretty much Sprint was better because it gave you more movement speed. For a Ranger who doesn't have a lot of base strength, Rage was kind of cool. But overall, I think Sprint was just a better choice most of the time. We have Achilles Strike coming in also at A tier. Also, I'm not listing these in order of like how good they are within the tiers, just the individual like categories, because that's too much of a pain in the ass. But yeah, so we have Achilles also coming in A tier. This is good on Barb. This is good on Ranger. This is good on Rogue. This was good on a lot of different classes that kind of want to hold you down and then put a lot of damage out on you. Specifically, like Spear Barbs use this super well because they could keep you stuck at range. A lot of Achilles Strike bow users were pretty strong, either rogues with bows or rangers with bows, obviously. Also in this tier, I'm going to put things like Smite. Funnily enough, Smite is just way better on things with high attack speed. So anyone that could use a Rondell Dagger, Smite was really strong with. I think Fighter with Dagger and Smite was really good. Repoze was dominating for days with a freaking PDR Rogue with Smite and a Rondell Dagger. Smite is just a high amount of damage if you can attack fast. I'm also going to put the Bonk Cactus Special Arcane Shield in this category. This ability really had very good synergy with the Bonk build. I think it was better than BOC, which we'll talk about later, for the Bonk build, but essentially it gives you defense, it gives you offense, both at the same time. How could you not like that? We also are going to put Hide in the A tier. Any class that really needs to close a gap or that really needs to get on top of you to do damage, you put Hide on him, and it's GG, bro. I was getting killed by Barbs with War Mauls using Hide. I was getting killed by Rangers with Windless Crossbows. It's kind of a meme, but when used effectively, there was basically no counterplay at all, so it has to go into a high tier. And believe it or not, I'm gonna leave A tier here. I'm gonna leave it like this. Everything else we're gonna talk about is actually in the overrated tier, starting with Second Wind. A lot of people were thinking, oh, Second Wind Barb, that sounds amazing. That sounds so good because he has a high HP pool and it gives you percentage-based healing. But no, Second Wind is just Savage Roar, but worse. It's Savage Roar, but you have to Campfire to get it back. I'm also going to put Divine Protection in this category. And this is partially because it was really OP before multiclassing, but then they nerfed it right away. And then after it was nerfed, nobody used it ever again. Everybody just used Savage Roar because Savage Roar is just Divine Protection, but it lasts longer. Also, this is going to be very controversial, but I'm going to put BOC in the overrated category as well. I know what you're thinking. I've been bonked so many times by these stupid bonk wizards and warlocks. However, everybody going into multiclassing was saying stuff like, oh my god, can you imagine Hide BOC Rogue? Hide BOC Barbarian? Barbarian with BOC? It's just one-shot central. All those builds sucked. They were so bad. And you know why? Because you have to scale magic damage for BOC to be good. And if you're scaling magic damage, you're not scaling the damage on your actual weapon itself. So BOC was just a waste for all of those classes. Yes, it was pretty good on Bonk, but I would argue that you were better off taking Sprint, Arcane Shield, Savage Roar, Rage, anything that gives you gap close, anything that gives you defensive capabilities, I think was better than BOC on the Bonk build. Let me know down in the comments if you think that's a crack take. Also in the overrated category, I'm going to put Blood Pact. There was a lot of hype around like Blood Pact Barbarian or Blood Pact this and that going into multiclassing. I more than one demon the entire time. And the one demon I did see just got shit on by a PDR fighter. So I think Blood Pact was ass. Last but not least, Phantomize, not actually that good. It's really good on TM Warlock. On every other class, I think it's bad. Every single person I saw that was running Phantomize, I just kept running behind him and they died as soon as the Phantomize ran out. Honorable mention, I'm going to put Reckless Attack and Quick Shot. This is just really OP in combination with the Survival Bow and additional damage stacking. So honestly, I could put it into A tier, but not that many people used it because it's a bow ability. I don't know, bro. Who cares? I'm putting it down here. Same thing with Reckless Attack. I feel like the people that used Reckless Attack got a lot of value out of it, but I just didn't see it. As soon as it got nerfed, as soon as you couldn't use it with the Windless Crossbow, nobody used this shit anymore. Every single time I saw somebody use it, I had to respect it and I had to play around it, and I think it could have been used more. Actually, I forgot to mention, Spell Memory should be included on this tier list as well, and I would put this in overrated or even in like freaking F tier, bro. Every single multi-class where somebody else took spells, I think was garbage. People had too much magic resist. You had to scale so much knowledge and magic damage so that anyone who didn't already want magic damage, your spells are doing nothing, bro. You're not having any impact. But that's going to wrap it up for the skills section. Next up, we have the perks. Two of these, no one is going to be surprised by that fall into the S tier. Of course, I'm talking about Robust and Iron Will. I did that backwards. This is Iron Will, this is Robust. These are two barbarian perks. They just give you so much defenses that almost any build should always be running them if they're trying to actually be as effective as they can be. But what I think is more interesting, Perseverance is absolutely unbelievably insane and overpowered, and I did not realize just how good this was. If you guys don't know, Perseverance is an ability from Cleric that reduces all instances of incoming damage by 3. This reduction applies after all damage reduction of other kinds, so physical damage reduction, magic damage reduction, etc. On top of that, if let's say it's a damage over time, it'll apply to every single tick of damage. If you were going to tick for 4 damage, you'll now tick for 1 damage. For things that hit multiple times or that have multiple instances of damage, this really is a huge reduction. And also because it happens after your physical damage reduction and magic damage reduction, it gets even more value the more PDR and MDR you stack. So super tanky fighters slapped this on and became unkillable gods. If you're running Cleric and you're running any type of defenses, always take Perseverance. Perseverance, in my opinion, is actually the strongest defensive perk in the entire game. Stronger than Anti-Magic, stronger than Iron Will, stronger than Robust, stronger than all of that. That being said, you may notice I don't have Anti-Magic up here. Anti-Magic I'm actually going to put in the A tier, and that is because it's basically just Iron Will but worse. Because if you guys didn't know, when you first get magic resist on your character, it doesn't actually give you that much, and then once you get into like the 30 to 40% range, it gives you significantly more per point of magic resist. So when you take Iron Will, resist on your gear matters more. For that reason, I'm putting Anti-Magic in A tier. It's still a really good perk. I still always take it on Warlock. This isn't just some bias thing. I just don't think it's quite in the S tier. Speaking of Warlock, Dark Reflection, insane for the Cactus build. I don't think it's quite S tier because it was just nerfed and it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still really good for its specific use. Also in this category, I'm going to put wizard spells or wizard perks. So like this Ice Shield, really strong defensive ability. Also Staff Mastery, the Bonk special, I'm putting in an A tier. It's honestly tempting to put this into S tier, but it's just so narrowly specific to a specific playstyle that I didn't feel like I could put it quite as much up with these, because these are just really strong on any build. Slap it onto any build and it becomes insane. It is good, and it did enable the bonk build, but I gotta be honest, as soon as Dark Reflection was nerfed, you really didn't see nearly as many bonk wizzies. Speaking of perks that give you just raw damage, I'm gonna put all of the fighter kind of normal Slayer perks. So this is Slayer, this is Dual Wield, this is Sword Mastery. These 3 perks are really good. Rogues yoink to these all the time. I yoink to Dual Wield as a Crystal Ball Dagger build. All of these just give you flat damage, and anything that gives you flat damage to your attacks is going to be really good. This gives you action speed. This gives you action speed and damage. Speaking of Rogue, I'm going to put Ambush in here as well. It kind of just is the same deal as with Hide. That Hide playstyle where if you're able to get an ambush on somebody, it's kind of GG most of the time. Like there's very few classes that are going to be able to defend against an ambush. So it has to go into this category. I think it's super good. I'm also going to put Protection from Evil in here. This is sort of, again, like a weird, not obviously strong perk, but it reduces the duration of debuffs by 50%. This reduces any sort of damage over time effect to do nothing to you. It reduces hit slow duration. It reduces the duration of Achilles Strike. It reduces the duration of Savage Roar. It reduces any sort of debuff. Curse of Pain, Poison Weapon, it reduces the duration of it. It'll do less damage. It's just a really strong defensive perk. I'm also going to put Crossbow Mastery in this tier. Rangers, I feel like they do use this to some effect, but this is like way strong on Fighter. This is good on Ranger, don't get me wrong. It's a very good perk on Ranger too, but generally speaking, I specifically had so much trouble dealing with anybody that used Crossbow Mastery, whether it was a Bard, whether it was a Fighter. And this one, I'm hesitant to put in here because Spear Mastery is really good on other classes that aren't Ranger. I can't say I've ever seen it be that strong on Ranger. I think it's because Spear plus a movement ability ends up being really strong. But regardless, so many spear builds were really strong during the multiclassing that I had to put it in here. I think the spear had somewhat of like a renaissance during this multiclassing era, and it's really cool that a weapon that was like almost never used, let's be real, before multiclassing, maybe people are coming around to. Maybe people are starting to see that the spear is actually kind of good, and I hope we see some spear fighters going forward. I mean, I guess I could put Weapon Mastery in here as well. I don't think Weapon Mastery is actually that good of a perk. If anything, it probably belongs more in like the honorable mention category because it was really good in multiclassing, but as like a perk itself, I don't think it's like super good or super OP or anything, so it's hard for me to put it in like the high tiers of perks. I think it's just a solid perk that enabled a lot of fun during this period, so I'm going to put it in the honorable mention category. Similarly speaking, Poison Weapon, sadly, I think if everyone wasn't running a shit ton of Magic Resist, Poison Weapon would have been super strong, but the fact that everyone ran Magic Resist and like Perseverance and PfE and stuff, this sucked during multiclassing. I think it could have been really cool, but it sucked. So in the overrated category for perks, some people will probably accuse me of being biased because I'm a Warlock player, but I gotta be real, I don't even know which is which, but Overhealing and Advanced Healer were not very good on Warlock. I think in trios, Overhealing is really good still, but in solos, Overhealing was very mediocre. The issue with Advanced Healer and why I think it sucks, you can get a pair of gloves that gives you most of the power that Advanced Healing gives you. You can get a pair of like blue or purple Mystic gloves and they give you 3 magical healing. That's most of the power of an entire perk. If you can get the stat on gear like pretty easily as like a base stat, how good could it really be? Another perk that had kind of some hype going into it was Shadow Touch. I didn't see a single build using Shadow Touch on another character. By the time you hit like 3 times with this, like sure, maybe you get 6 damage and 6 health, but 6 health is never ever going to save you in a fight with a guy with dual wield Slayer Sword Mastery. It's just not going to do shit. It might be nice for PvE and healing up off of PvE, but against players, I think Shadow Touch was ass. But I think this is all of the perks I wanted to cover. If there was some low-key great perks that I'm missing here, let me know, but these are the ones that I saw most often, and these are the ones that I felt were not exactly living up to the expectations. These, though, were insane. These were all really good and fun to play with, too, except this. All right, last but not least, we have the spells tier list. So I honestly was like back and forth on whether I was even going to make this because spells, truthfully, in the solos game, sucked. They sucked during multiclassing, and it's mainly because everybody was able to get Iron Will for free. Sadly, that made all of the spell builds I tried like pretty mid. They were basically just regular Warlock, but they felt weaker because everybody had Magic Resist. In the trios game, there's a lot of like, you know, Sank would be S tier. Getting Sank on your Warlock or your Wizard so that you can help your team out more would be S tier, but I don't really play trios, so I'm going to put it there for now, I guess. I saw a lot of Curse of Pain on Clerics. It's kind of like Zap, like pretty much every caster either had Curse of Pain or Zap. Every single caster obviously is going to need some hit scan ability because it's just really good in the mid-range. Most caster builds also took Lesser Heal. Lesser Heal, the ability to heal yourself even if you don't have magic healing on your gear. The ability to heal yourself even 15 or 20 or whatever it ends up being on like a wizard is really good. It's just an instant health potion. Why would you not like that? That's amazing. I'm kind of debating whether to put Hydra in S tier or A tier. Again, it's the same thing as Lesser Heal. The ability to heal up mid-combat is really strong, and especially also in trios, like Hydra has a lot of like battlefield manipulation and like synergy with chain lightning and stuff, but I don't know if it's quite S tier. I'm gonna put it up here for now. You guys can let me know if you think it should be lower. And also I'm gonna put in the A tier Eldritch Shield and Ignite. I think Eldritch Shield is really strong and Ignite was really, really good for all of the bonk boys running around as well. It just gives you another access to apply your true magic damage. Also, I didn't list all of the wizard spells out in the A tier, but pretty much every wizard spell could also be in the A tier. They're all just pretty solid, and like how much value you get out of them pretty much comes down to like how good you are as a player or how good you are with the class and with the spell. So I didn't feel like listing them all in here, but every warlock would run Curse of Pain, Life Drain Hydra, Flamewalker, and then one of either Lesser Heal or Eldritch Shield. You didn't see many 10 spell wizards because most of them would use a staff and have like a hybrid bonk setup. If they wanted to cast spells, they would just carry the staff so that anyone that got close, they could smack with the staff. Yeah, casting spells was kind of tough, guys. Casting spells was kind of tough in the multiclassing era, but I'm not even going to add in like overrated or honorable mention because really, you just didn't see that many spellcasters, dude. You just did not see that many of them. Multiclassing was much more melee dominated because of the perk situation. But that's gonna do it, guys. Those are my takes on what the most overpowered and strongest perks, skills, and abilities were. Interpret that however you want to. Iron Mace, the ball is in your court now. I'm really interested to see if we get balance changes as well with the removal of multiclassing. We're just gonna have to wait and see until tomorrow. We're gonna have to wait and see. Hopefully tomorrow, bro. Please. Please be tomorrow, please. I want to go back to playing the OG Dark and Darker, man. Let me know if I got any of this wrong. Let me know if you think my takes are shit and I'm a biased Warlock main. But yep, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.